Okay, so there is absolutely no doubt, without any doubt in my mind, that The Fly, 1986, directed by David Cronenberg, starring Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, is absolutely one of my favorite 80s movies and probably my favorite body horror film ever put to screen. It still holds up today. I think having everything be done with makeup, with practical effects, it just looks so timeless. Like you could tell it's the 80s, but it looks better than most things that come out today. And I think it's just one of those things where you just kind of look back and be like, man, maybe we should do more shit like this, right? But I just think Jeff Goldblum's performance is one of the most underrated horror performances, period. And in a decade full of horror masterpieces and practical beauty, The Fly is just one of those ones that always sat with me. I remember when I was a kid and I saw The Fly the first time. It freaked me the hell out. It leaves you terrified. It's a terrifying story. But I remember just being so immersed in it because it just was so crazy looking. And as an adult, 40 years later, by the way, geez, it is literally still just one of the best horror movies. It is probably in my top five for 80s movies. Matter of fact, no, it absolutely is. If Aliens and Terminator are one and two, then The Fly is probably three. But there's also Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is just so awesome. So it's one of those. It's up there. It's up there as one of my favorite 80s movies. But yeah, man, like Seth Brundle, who invents teleportation pods. He's trying to invent teleportation, which hadn't been done yet. And he actually does succeed after a bunch of multiple failures. And he actually ends up succeeding. But the problem is he teleports a fly with him. But there's this twist about the whole DNA splicer thing that fused his DNA with the fly. And at first, he's stronger, he's more energetic, he blowing backs out crazy on that joint, you know what I mean? Like it is one of those things where you're just kind of like, okay, cool. He's got some differences here. And then the mutation starts and he starts to turn into a fly. And Jeff Goldblum goes from charismatic, funny, charming science guy who created the teleportation pods in his room where he lives to one of the most sympathetic, painful outcome characters in horror movie history. And Seth Brundle goes down as one of those. And I do have to say, I do like the little romance aspect a little bit. I like that there's like the romance, but it's like tragic. It is so tragic, but it's done so well where it doesn't feel terrible and it doesn't feel forced. You actually want them to be together, but because of the whole mutation process, it's literally stopping them. It's stopping the whole process from going on, and this, that, and the third. And at first, you really liked them. Gina Davis was so pretty, man. Bro. She was so pretty, but she plays a journalist who tries to figure out everything, and he really didn't want it to be known. But journalists got a journalist, right? So, man, it's how do you talk about this movie without really spoiling it? Because I want people to see it. If you hadn't seen The Fly, please see The Fly. I think it is one of those movies that has aged throughout time, and I don't want to really spoil it, but I feel like after 40 years, if you don't know how The Fly ends, that's kind of crazy. But I'm also not going to say it. I already said it was tragic, but I still want people to see it to experience it for themselves because I want people to experience the emotion, the rawness, the just the raw beauty in it somehow. There's like this raw, twisted beauty in it, and how they portray the romance and then the science together. It's just so damn well done. Like it starts off like this romantic sci-fi drama, but then it just descends into full blown body horror. It's like this slow transition, and you're like, holy crap, this seemed well, so well. I don't think any other movie has quite done it this good. But it's gradual and unavoidable. I think that's like what makes it so shocking, is that it just kind of starts and it doesn't stop until you get to the end and you're like, geez, that is rough. But it's so like, damn, man. I think we need to go back to some kind of style because yeah, the 80s is a dated decade, but the horror movies hold up like a mug because that was the era of practical effects. We had to do it the right way because we didn't have too much going on. We didn't have too many, CGI was in like its freaking fetus era. I mean, like you had some CGI and it's like early cases of CGI in movies, like with Blade Runner, but they weren't running films at the time. So most stuff had to be done on practical. But it's kind of funny because, like, I think some people took his transformation as like an algorithm for AIDS, but I don't think it was supposed to be. I mean, yeah, the whole idea of like him being, spliced with the fly, it kind of made him stronger, more energetic, probably a little more durable, things like that. But I don't think it was supposed to be an allegory for AIDS. I just don't. I mean, like maybe some terminal, like I think they were trying to say like a terminal illness, but I don't think AIDS was the thing they were going for. But I know that was kind of like a thing. It is a little bit frustrating on his pride because his pride is kind of like what kind of descends the problem. It definitely makes a bad descent because of his pride. But he's a smart guy. He's a smart, intellectual guy who invented a teleportation machine. There was just some defects in there, and especially the accident that caused the whole thing. It's kind of upsetting because when you watch Ronnie's point of view, it's painful on both sides. Ronnie's point of view is she loves the guy, and she has to watch him deteriorate before her very eyes each time she goes back to see him. That's she can't stop it. It goes. It's not your typical horror movie at that point. You're like, damn, bro, like this is real. Like she really about to go through some shit right now. Like you see what I'm saying? She about to go through some ish, and I think the hardest part for the movie is watching his body change. He's mutating, he's going through the process, and his mind's just trying to keep up, and it eventually doesn't. That part, that hits like a muff. So you got all these things that come in, and it's just like, bruh, it's so damn good. I don't think few horror movies have done it like The Fly since, and it is definitely one of the best remakes I've ever seen because the 1958 one's okay, but I definitely like this one better. This is like one of my favorite movies. Pretty sure I gave it like a 4 star, maybe even 4.5 star on Letterboxd because I love it more as an adult. Like I said, as a kid, it left me like disturbed. It left me messed up. Like I was like, damn, bro, this nigga turned into a fly. Next thing I know, he was all sad, but he still wanted the shorty. But then she was like, nah, because this shit nasty. Like, but I still want you. It was kind of crazy. But going through the film, you understand. But I definitely recommend The Fly. I think a lot of people who really like cinema who haven't seen it would probably love it based on the type of movie you like. I'm not even like a big horror guy like that, but I can even admit the 80s horror movies haven't been topped. They haven't been topped. Like we have a few movies recently like Weapons, Sinners, things like that where I'm like, okay, these are up there. But I genuinely don't think 80s horror has ever really been defeated, especially when 90s horror was kind of goofy because it was all like Jason 7 and Nightmare on Elm Street 10 or some shit like that, or New Nightmare, you know what I'm saying? Like, or it's like Child's Play 5. And like, it was, they just got so stupid. And that's when Leprechaun came around, and it was like, okay, these horror movies are just dumb as hell. 2000s horror, I feel like this kind of went under. I feel like 2000s horror was kind of like remakes of old stuff, but they sucked horribly or they just weren't good and they were just out here drawing. But 80s, I personally believe 80s horror hasn't been topped yet. I definitely think so. So I definitely recommend The Fly. It is one of my favorite 80s films, probably just one of my favorite films ever. It is one of Jeff Goldblum's best, if not his best performance. Gina Davis is great. The body horror is beautiful. The makeup's fantastic. Actually, it won an Oscar for makeup, I believe. I think this movie won an Oscar. So yeah, it won an Academy Award for best makeup. See, yeah, I definitely and it deserved to win. It deserved to win. So let me know how you guys feel down below. Have you seen The Fly? Let me know if you plan on seeing The Fly after this review. Also, let me know because I genuinely think people would enjoy this movie. And after 40 years, it deserves some recognition. It's 40 years after one of the best horror movies ever hit. So let me know how y'all feel down below. See y'all in the next one.